I've filled a few passports over the years, followed more than a few dusty roads to the end. And for some reason, this is the place that sticks in my favorite daydreams and haunts my worst nightmares. Maybe it's the creatures, exotic in every way. Maybe it's the people with a bloodline unlike any other. Or maybe it's the landscapes they share, the kind found nowhere else. This is Madagascar. And it is most definitely not a cartoon. It is a real-life drama with two possible endings. Survival or extinction. My name is Bill Weir, and I'm a storyteller. I've reported from all over the world, and I have seen so much change. So I made a list of the most wonderful places to explore right before they change forever. This is the Wonder List. Welcome to the strangest place in the world. Proof that when it comes to life on our big blue marble, geography is destiny. See, this is what the Earth looked like 100 million years ago, when Madagascar was part of Africa. But then the Earth moved, creating an island about the size of Texas, 1,700 miles out in the Indian Ocean. And on this isolated wonderland, cut off from the continents, life evolved in the most interesting ways. Isn't this the coolest thing you've ever seen? Look at this. It's the Baobab Alley. Got to be one of the most surreal forests anywhere in the world. One of my favorite spots. I came here years ago and said, I'm going back. I'm riding a motorcycle through the Baobab. And it's a good place to start because this tree is a great representation of how special Madagascar is in the world. Most of the species of the baobab exist only here. The rest of the world has monkeys, they have lemurs. The rest of the world has lions and tigers and bears. They have fuchsia. The rest of the world has geckos and lizards. Kids here have pet chameleon. Is that right? Chameleon? Thank you. This is my French professor over here. 80% of the life forms in Madagascar exist nowhere else on the planet. They have such rich ecological treasures in this place, but as you can see at the same time, it is one of the poorest countries in the world. So here's the challenge. How do you protect what's left of the natural forests, of the lemurs and the chameleon and the baobab, and lift these folks out of crushing poverty at the same time? To search for clues, we must wade into an African-Asian melting pot. 20 million descendants of warriors, rulers, and slaves. Tribes still divided by skin color, bloodline, and class. This was a French colony for about 60 years, but after declaring independence in 1960, there have been coups and assassinations, despotic dictators, and failed democracy. While one crisis after another slashed and burned the economy, desperate people slashed and burned the vast majority of Madagascar's forests. Which is sobering, because while it may look like any old jungle, this is the only place on the planet where you can still hear this. It's like a car alarm.
It's a siren going off, basically, yes.
My goodness. This is Rainer, a German biologist who came to study as a young man and fell in love with the country and his wife and never left. And these are Indri, some of the world's biggest lemurs. Is that a call and response?
Yeah, that was one group's territorial call. So usually all the individuals in the group would join in calling, and then the neighboring group would respond to that.
That's so cool. The locals call them Babakutu, after an ancient story about a boy named Kutu who lost his father to an accident in the forest and was nursed by lemurs.
And as soon as the boy was healthy again, the Indri brought him back to the village. And so the villagers said, well, it's very sad that your father died, but you actually have a new father now, which is the Indri. So that became the father of Kutu, Baba Kutu.
Baba Kutu. It's the Madagascar version of Tarzan.
More or less.
Raised by the lemurs. Because they eat such a wide variety of plants, Indri cannot survive captivity. You will never see one in a zoo. So to help lemur lovers get a closer look, Regis spent months earning the trust of this family. And that is no easy task in a land where subsistence hunting is common. When you go home, do they eat lemur? There aren't any lemurs left near my home, he says. They have been hunted out and the forest is gone. So what's the solution? Well, Rainer has some ideas. And they involve showing off some more fabulous creatures after dark. About 85% of the people on this planet have access to electricity. In Madagascar, it is less than 15%. Not many advantages come with being one of the darkest places on Earth. But for those who like to gaze at stars and nocturnal critters, there is no place better.
Nareo va iva anatin'ny sary.
Oh, okay. Here you go. So
Oh,
that's one
yeah.
of the...
I was just sleeping, and half the world showed up. But Jeannot and Davinia aren't here for fun. They are doing actual science, capturing amphibians to test for chytrid, a disease that is wiping out frogs around the world. But for some reason, not here.
Chytrid has also arrived in Madagascar, but for some reason we don't observe any mass mortalities of amphibians, so we don't know why that is.
Are there theories that the secret to saving the rest of the planet's frogs are locked in this guy somehow?
Maybe.
No telling what mysteries are hidden here, just waiting to be unlocked. Consider that half of the world's chameleons come from Madagascar, and they just discovered 11 new species, all equipped with the skills of a mutant superhero. Tickling. That assassin's tongue, spring-loaded, faster than a blink. If you leave him here, he will then adapt the color of my love handles. The ability to change color to suit their mood, or their movements to disappear. I love it.
Yeah.
Tentative.
Well, that's also a camouflage because it actually mimics branches like moving in the wind.
In the wind, really? Oh, that's brilliant. And maybe best of all, the ability to see everywhere at once.
Even a Malagasy proverb referring to those eyes. So you should behave like a chameleon in life. Like always one eye to the past and one eye to the future.
Ah, wise. As far as these little dudes are concerned, past and future are written in the trees as their habitat gets smaller and smaller. So that is the natural rainforest?
Yeah, that's one of those fragments that remain now, because as you can see, is like more of those fragments all around.
Right.
And if you imagine that this was all like continuous rainforest formerly.
And this is the result of slash and burn. Around here, people turn the forest into charcoal to burn or sell. In low wetlands, they cut down the trees to grow rice. And in the rainforest, timber mafias poach precious rosewood to fill China's demand for expensive furniture. It's so quiet here, you can hear children's laughter from that other valley in the wind. So this is a nursery down here where they're growing replacement trees for what's been slashed and burned. And when you look around, you realize a whole lot of slash and burn part, very little nursery. These are your babies.
Over the years, we have probably planted, let's say 1,500 hectares or so.
Wow.
So that's 1,500,000 trees. So that's quite a lot, but then still 1,500 hectares is nothing compared to the extent of the forest that
has been damaged.
Exactly.
And to fight the devastation of precious wetlands, his secret weapons are female entrepreneurs. How does a family in Madagascar work? Is the man in charge or is the woman in charge?
So usually the man is in charge, but the woman manages the money.
And there is not much to manage. Like so much of the nation, they are subsistence farmers. They eat what they grow, with little left over to sell. These are families that survive on less than $2 a day. Yeah, can I see this? So imagine the impact of selling a handicraft to tourists for $10. Oh, this is cool. By turning their weaving skills into an income stream, Rainer hopes they'll stop their husbands from cutting down all their raw materials.
They can actually prevent the men from converting that part into rice fields as well, because they earn much more money than the men do from their handicraft.
I leave here with mixed emotions. Overwhelmed by the size of their need, but inspired by this little business as new and fragile as the seedlings in that nursery, but just as hopeful. And while some tackle this country's problem with science and economics, it's telling that our next guide uses a mixture of science and spirits.
Be careful of the chameleon, be careful for the forest or snakes. During the day, the ghosts, they read on the back of the chameleon or snakes.
Yep. Turns out that to understand Madagascar, we have to understand the behavior of ghosts. It is market day in the village. A nice chance to soak up a little day in the life of northern Madagascar, where people are friendly, or shy, or both. Except for the angry man with a stick.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
But just when I think we're about to be shut down, in swoops a savior.
Is he trying to shake us down?
No, he's drunk. He's drunk. He's a police for this area. Look at it, he's drunk on this time.
In this dysfunctional place, not many are willing to stand up to authority. But Philippe is a prince. I love your hat. Do you know what your hat means?
No.
Do you know what Milwaukee is?
Uh-huh.
It's a city.
Really?
In the United States, where I was born. Anybody wearing a Milwaukee hat in Madagascar is very cool by me.
I didn't know that before.
His dad was a Frenchman who disappeared when he was born. His mom, a Malagasy tribal queen.
They want a guide through the forest. You know the Madagascar costume? And then the kids afraid the wet-skinned people call it vazaha.
Vazaha, yeah.
Yes, but I'm never scared. Never during my life.
He couldn't afford school, but he soaked up all he could from visiting scientists studying his home forest.
Sometimes you use the left hand and then the right feet, like this is moving like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the eyes turn.
Right.
And then the eyes kind of see like 50 meters away around.
Really? They can see that far?
Yeah, yeah.
He learned biology from Americans, English from a Canadian anthropologist. In return, he taught them how to find the tiniest chameleons.
Male and female.
They're so delicate. Look at those little tiny, tiny feet. He taught them the movements of the mongoose.
Is there on the sun.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a beautiful tail. And where to find the friendliest brown lemurs. What's going on? What's happening? Oh, now there's two. Oh, hello. Aren't you? Ah, I love the smell of fresh lemur in the morning.
You have a new friends now, man.
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, the new friends. Yeah, look at it.
Wow, here we go. We're in it.
Now start up the fields.
Oh, wow. It's massive. Look at that.
So be careful, it's quite sharp, huh?
Millions of years ago, this was all coral reef until Madagascar heaved out of the sea. Time, wind, and water then took over, carving the karst into steak knife and saw blade and needle point canyons. Whoa, look at that. Are you kidding me? Talk about a death trap. The tribes who ran barefoot through this called it singi, which means tiptoe. Everything here wants to poke you.
Yeah.
The rocks, the plants. But while this is a jagged, angry place for human beings, turns out to be a wonderful haven for all other kinds of life. You see, the singi is like a Manhattan apartment building with different tenants at different levels. Up top, you got your lemurs and your lizards frolicking in the sun. And then down in the middle regions, you can find bats and parrots. And then way down there, where it's humid and lush, there are orchids and insects the size of your fist. Anywhere else in the world, this would be a gold mine of tourism. But we see just a handful of people the entire day. And the only bit of infrastructure to hold us is this scary bridge. Built not by the government, but local guides. The same guides who do their best to protect the delicate canyon known as Singi Rouge. I've never seen anything like this before. Yeah, it's like being inside a giant candle or a pastry or something. But this is just an interesting corner of the backyard for the local kids. I'm Batman. Yeah, close. Yeah, you got it. According to Philippe, some of the money from admittance fees pays for books and a teacher, making them luckier than most. because many schools around the country are cutting back to half days for lack of funding. It seems like the children of Madagascar need education more than anything, right?
Yeah.
They need it to balance the kind of ancient thinking that makes this waterfall sacred.
Before they doing something swell, build a building, before get married, they ask the ancestral, oh, holy places, my ancestral here, give me some blessing before marriage, da, 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 da. And then they make a prayer here.
I see.
Make a prayer. And after that, they come back, leaving some offering.
Right. Traditional belief is common and powerful in Madagascar. And while science and religion don't normally mix, Philippe uses whatever he can to keep his neighbors from cutting the forest. You're trying to spread spiritual belief.
Yeah, yeah.
More fadi, more tradition,
More
to
fadi.
keep people away from destroying places like this.
Yeah,
Interesting.
exactly that.
Fadi is a set of ancient taboos, and he uses them to remind neighbors not to cut the baobab or eat the lemur, because the spirits of their grandparents might live inside them.
I'm coming up like a protocol between environment, between the costume. My 2 feet, one is on conservation, one is on the costume.
A foot in each world.
Yeah.
He tells me that this generation has been raised with much more respect for ghosts than the government. Are you hopeful that this president will be better than the last?
About the nature, yes, but about the money, corruption, no.
Poverty breeds corruption, and vice versa. A vicious cycle. But what would Madagascar look like with real wealth? Next stop, the richest corner of the country. What's amazing about our ever-crowded world is that you don't have to travel between distant nations to see the real wealth gap. Either in America or Madagascar, where heaven is just a quick boat ride to Nosy Bay. Big island, full of French and Italian resorts. It is the richest spot in the poorest of countries. Thanks to a mixture of foreign investment and tropical splendor. Water that holds endless delight for Europeans and flippers, and survival for everyone else. Can you imagine 3 days on that ship?
They live 3 days there.
Yeah.
At night, sometimes they sleep on the beach.
Sleep on the islands?
Yeah. And in the morning, they leave in the morning and they fish again.
Right. Madi runs fishing and snorkeling trips for tourists out of the resorts. See, what's the difference between you and them? Why aren't you doing that for a living?
You know, this job is a very dangerous job.
I see. Yeah. He's modest. The real reason is that he speaks English and Italian. His travel agent mom made him get an education.
It's very hard life, but they need to work to get the money because they have a family.
Yeah. Does anybody have children?
Yeah.
You all have children? What do you hope they are when they grow up? Do you hope they're fishermen or something else? Are people a little bit richer now that tourism has come, or do you feel the same?
Yeah, they have the money now.
You have a little more money. Yeah. In their own ways, Madi and the fishermen are harvesting the tourist-friendly waves. While high on a hilltop, I meet a woman who profits from the colors in the sky. I am fascinated that your backyard is the most unbelievable view in Madagascar. Is that why you picked this neighborhood?
J'ai venu atunci pe anul tăti. Les vues?
La vue, satria mahita coucher du soleil, salakady misy touriste maro za mandafy.
Absolutely, yes, because of the view and because of the tourists. So I can sell my goods here.
Ah. Linda first came here 10 years ago, and while her friends saw sunset ogling crowds, she saw customers. So she built a store and a home right here, and makes almost enough to send all 3 kids to school. And occasionally head to market to splurge on meat for dinner.
When was it butchered?
This morning.
This morning?
It's very fresh.
Very
yeah.
fresh, okay.
It's about $1.20.
Yeah. Anj is our translator on this journey, and through her I learned that a single cut of beef costs 2 or 3 days' pay.
And you know the things here, they are buying the per day, day to day. So this is one for today, and then we come back again tomorrow.
So people shop day to day?
Yes, yeah, because they don't have lots of money.
So let me ask you, I see women around with something on their face. Is that a traditional cosmetic, or what is that?
Yeah, it's a grain, and it's like a mask. And they put it for a week or so, and they're getting white. So white means you are pretty.
You mean lighter? It's to lighten their skin?
Yes. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Through Western eyes, this may all seem so primitive, but compared to the rest of Madagascar, this is a vibrant, middle-class town, and their economic engine is tourism.
What does tourism mean to you?
That means it's, you know, in Nosibe, if you don't have a tourist on the island is dead. Before we have 2 factories. One is for the shrimps factory and one is for sugarcane. But the 2 is finished now. That means almost of the people who live there, it's depend for the tourists. When there's no tourists, the island is dead.
But here's the catch. Tourists only come if the country is stable. So the fate of these folks rests largely in the hands of the men running this country. Which seems like a good reason to go see the man in charge. This earth is rich. The people are not. This ground is full of nickel and iron and gemstones. The people who walk above it have virtually nothing. Ask why this is, and most will blame politics and human nature.
First of all, there is this high rate of corruption.
Corruption,
in this country.
Ndranto is a forester turned activist, and in an age of censorship and political turmoil, he takes a risk by speaking out.
Every time we kind of increase in economy, there is a crisis, political crisis in Madagascar.
Why is that?
We have a proverb in Madagascar saying, "Uri avamanan." It means that if some of us goes up, we don't want him there, we want to get it down.
Pull them down if someone succeeds, yeah.
And that's the main problem.
Nani runs the efforts of the World Wildlife Fund here and has similar frustrations.
It is a rich country with lots of resources, but the richness doesn't translate into wealth for the people. And
Who's to blame for that?
I think it's governance in general, the successive governments, but then we're also supposed to be a democracy, so somewhere, I mean, even the people have some part of responsibility in that.
How is this administration compared to the last few?
Her laugh is loaded, and it's tough to explain. You see, when I first came here a decade ago, I came to tell the hopeful story of a leader named Mark Ravalomanana. He went from rags to riches selling milk and yogurt, and then became president with vows to fight against corruption and for the environment. Animal lovers rejoiced, but when people caught wind of his plan to buy a $60 million jet from the family of Walt Disney, they got angry. The protests were whipped to a froth by a former radio DJ named Andrei Rajolina. who convinced the military to throw out the yogurt guy and put him in power.
We went through a 5-year political crisis starting in 2009.
Yep.
And we have a government who was not necessarily ready, prepared to lead.
After the coup, the already bad economy got worse. Foreign aid and investment dried up for 5 long years. But in 2014, Madagascar finally held an election, and just over 50% of the votes went to this man. Mr. President, a pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure. Welcome.
His name is Ari Rajaona Rimampianina, and he is the DJ's former finance minister. I've been all over your country for the past 10 days or so. You have a beautiful land full of beautiful people, but I'm worried about their future. Are you worried about their future?
C'est un défi. C'est un défi. Je suis là justement pour relever ces défis. Je ne suis pas inquiet, je suis un homme de défi. Donc je me bats avec la population qui est derrière moi pour justement relever ces défis.
You're the man to make the change, okay. After seeing the last few presidents enrich themselves while everything in the country for the common man didn't seem to change, why should they believe you're different? Why do you think they chose you?
Vous savez, je suis là, et je le dis avec humilité, pour changer le cours de l'histoire.
He describes an ambitious plan to revolutionize the nation's energy grid with wind, solar, and hydroelectric dams. How will you pay for these projects?
J'invite les investisseurs privés à venir. Beaucoup sont intéressés aujourd'hui à investir dans l'énergie, aujourd'hui.
I've seen projections that there may be 40 million people in Madagascar by the middle of this century. The population will have doubled, and at the current rate, all the forests will be gone. What do you think we'll see in the year 2050?
Ce que je vois en 2050, c'est un Madagascar avec son peuple qui sera sorti de la pauvreté. Donc je souhaiterais que, à ce moment-là, on puisse encore avoir la faune et la flore endémique de Madagascar qui va rester, et on va doubler, tripler, multiplier les efforts pour préserver notre environnement. Il y aura beaucoup plus de touristes.
But his critics say they have heard such promises many times before.
The main problem is that they always pledge for political willingness, but law enforcement is very, very bad in Madagascar.
Law enforcement?
Law enforcement. So,
why? Because of corruption? They look the other way?
Corruption mainly. We, civil society, we try our best to overcome this situation, but the government so far did not listen.
They're not listening
to us. And I always said that if the authorities, they don't have ears to listen, obviously they don't have brain to govern.
I'm meeting with the president in a few hours.
Yeah.
What should I ask him? What would you ask him if you could sit down with him?
I would ask him to apply the law, to do his best really to chase the natural resource mafia barons in Madagascar. He knows them.
Is there a timber mafia in Madagascar?
Oui, il y en a. Il y en a et nous sommes en train de combattre ce trafic de bois précieux ou le trafic aussi d'animaux qui sont endémiques à Madagascar.
Everyone I talk to says everyone knows who they are. If everyone knows who these people are, why not just go arrest them?
Ce n'est pas facile. Ce n'est pas facile parce que c'est tout un réseau. C'est tout un réseau et je pense que la plupart de ceux qui sont dedans ne sont que des petites gens. Mais les grands, la tête des réseaux, se trouvent même à l'extérieur. Et c'est ça qui est dommage. Nous sommes en train de nous battre et je crois que ça va donner des résultats.
How do you sleep at night? I mean, how do you remain optimistic? You know, you have this seemingly impossible job. What's the answer?
If you work at the local level, you can really change things. The communities are really hungry for better lives, for schools for their children, better health, more revenues. But they also deeply understand that they cannot achieve all that without good and healthy forests to get the woods and reefs, to get the fish.
Do you hope a leader will rise, someone who's capable?
I think it will come. I think it will come. It may be the same, it will may be another person, but it will come. What is the main vision for Madagascar? If you go to Australia, for example, Australia is a mining country. Costa Rica is a tourism country. Madagascar is what country? A crisis country?
Riding through the baobabs, a plume of smoke catches my eye. I follow it through the thorns to a lovely little family turning trees into charcoal, because what choice do they have? I came looking for physical signs of hope, and to be honest, at times the search was grim. But I did find hope in guys like Regis. How do you convince a fellow Malagasy that that injury, that lemur, is more valuable in the tree than in the pot when they're just trying to feed their families? I tell them you need the forest because you are farmers. If the forest is gone, there won't be any rain for your fields. Lemurs disperse seeds, so you need the lemurs as well to protect the forest. People are recognizing this, and I know people who have stopped slash and burn agriculture because of it. Regis in the Indri forest. Philippe in the Singy Rouge. Yeah. The women learning a sustainable business, one handicraft at a time. They are all sort of a neighborhood watch, looking out for the wild things in the absence of a functional society. Middle of this century, 2050, my kid will be my age. If she comes here, what will she see?
Well, I suspect that in the areas like this, where we are at the moment, there will still be forest left. But then in other areas where no tourists go, I think there won't be any forest there. We can save parts of Madagascar, but I am pretty sure that we can't save everything.
After a journey like this one, you bring home a lot of mental souvenirs. A new appreciation for roads that are paved, fields that are lush, a society that works. I went to this place called Nosy Bay, and I met this woman, this mom, and she makes these. You bring back fresh reminders of our shared humanity. And how, for so many kids, geography is destiny. And you wonder, how much planet will be left for them if the only renewable resource is hope?